also the inkwells. So people were really writing with pen and ink in here. And if you have a look at the ceiling, just above our heads, we have 3 characters. FT1, can you see this? Yeah. And these are, of course, the abbreviations for Emperor Francis Joseph.
We were sent away, not just me, so I don't want to make it yeah, because yes, quite insightful and interesting information on the Austria's Parliament and government. Let me know what you guys have learned.
The second chamber of the Austrian Parliament.
Hello my people, and let me holla at you guys. Hello, welcome to this new episode of Victors with Victor in Vienna, Austria. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your support and your continued work with me and with us here in Vienna, University of Austria. Look at how beautiful it is. And I want to say with deep gratitude to the family of Victors with Victor and everyone who supported Victors with Victor to date, and appreciating our content around Europe. I am very grateful, and I am intended to continue bringing you more content and to share with you more on Victors with Victor. So today I want to show you guys something interesting, which is the engine and the drive within the government of Austria at large. Well, there were no lights, but I just crossed here because people are crossing. When you go to Rome, you do what the Romans are doing. When you go to Austria, don't do everything they are doing. But yes, I'm in the area of Windberg, and I want to show you guys the Parliament. I want to take us to the Parliament. Then we see the Parliament where the legislation is done, the laws are made, and maybe learn a little bit about it. If you're enjoying this content, I appreciate you guys. One of the things that is also amazing about when I came here, remember, I spent half of my night in the bus and the rest of it in the train station. Like an hour in the train station, then I was sent away. We were sent away, not just me, so I don't want to make it yeah, because they needed to clean it. So then I spent my night with a lot of people at the park. I slept at the park till morning. And so parks are one of the places that I see and I'm like, wow. Yes, it's very safe here. I'm not going to assume that it is safe all the time, every time. But I'm very grateful for the opportunity. This is a park right here. And there are so many people there. It's a very vibrant day today in Vienna. And so we have this. Look at that. Dr. Karl Renner. Yes. Let's find out. Well, I've been really making it interactive, finding things like this, and letting my family really share information, and it's really been great. I've been learning a lot from the comment section, and I'd like for you guys to share. If you know about Dr. Karl Renner, Dr. Karl Renner. Karl Renner. That's the metro. Yeah, the transport system in Europe generally is amazing. And everything seems to be in place. When it comes to infrastructure, I'm gonna cross. So I'm crossing, and on the other side we have, guess what? The Parliament is right here. The Austrian Parliament is right here. And that's what I want to take us through. So we can see the Parliament. It's a gorgeous building. It's a beautiful building. Very beautiful indeed. And we have this statue here, and I don't know what it represents. So there is a horse, but also a man with big balls. Yeah, but the man seems to be fighting the horse as the horse is jumping. Let us know what that represents. And there are so many statues here, and on this other side we have the statue of people. The flag? That's strange. The flag of Austria. There's a statue there, but a very beautiful building. And the same statue is the statue that we see here as well. Let us know if you know the history of this statue and what it represents. That's actually just a robe covering his body part. But let us know what you think. Yeah, there is so many statues of horses here represented. There are so many statues of horses represented in the sculptures and through the sculptures. And here we have a horse with wings and a crown. It's imagery, I don't know if you can see it. And then on top of it, up there, I'm gonna show you, but there is also this. Let me turn it around so I can show you. So we have this horse with wings, and then we have these kitties. This seems to be adults. Yes. And this is their horse. And then up there we have a golden crown. This thing is tall, but up there we have a golden crown. There's no information about it. Yes. And here we have this water fountain. This man is receiving it on his back, and I don't know what that could be. It's pouring the water, and those angels are watching. I'm assuming they're angels because angels are represented in white. And there is a man there, seems to be reading the scripture and wondering what I'm doing here. Oh, she's taking a picture, so I'm gonna be respectful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Come here with your lovers and take pictures. Yeah, here there's a statue of this woman. Imagine that is Virgin Vienna meeting Mr. Vienna. And on top of it there is Mother Crown having a golden crown sculpture of her. And on the side there is, seems to just be generations watering for the next generation and the next generation. Sorry. Yes. Parliament the same thing that I showed you guys, so I won't go back to that. It's on this other side. This building is humongous, it's huge. The Parliament building is huge. Parliament Austrias. Let me know what these representations mean in your own interpretation, but also in the interpretation of an Australian as well, who knows about this. Yes. And there's some information here that I'd like to share. So, Parliament W, which is probably a representation of Vienna. So Vienna tourism, 1874 to 1883. Still natural, built from 1874 to 1883 in the Hellenistic style, to a design by Theophil Hansel. Interesting. And so, yeah, this is what the view that I'm enjoying here of the Parliament. Yes, let me try and see if we can go in. So this is the entrance with automatic doors. Information. So we have information here. Guys, so I managed to make it into the Parliament. So there is information that says democracy is everyone. The law is our country, emanates from the people. The law in our country emanates from our people, from all of us. But what does that actually mean? Explore the Agora named for the marketplace of classical antiquity, along with the auditorium and forum. Take a look at how parliamentary democracy works, how a house built for representation of the people functions. Learn about the development of democracy, hear familiar stories and all but forgotten ones. Get to know the people whose achievements secured today's democracy. Investigate the scope of democracy, action and glimpse behind the scenes of parliamentary activities. In the library, discover the wide variety of historical records that bear witness to what goes on in Parliament. Wow. So we're just gonna go in and explore the Parliament. Yeah, so as I take you guys through this,
Die architektonische Grundidee aber ist klar. Sie bezieht sich auf die Idee eines Staates, der dem Wohl aller Menschen dient. Die Palasatine in der Mitte des Brunnens vor dem Parlamentsgebäude als Symbol für die Weisheit. Sie soll allen Entscheidungen der Parlamentarierinnen und Parlamentarier zugrunde liegen. Die allegorischen Figuren zu ihren Füßen verkörpern die ausübende Gewalt mit Richtschwert und Waagschale und die gesetzgebende Gewalt mit einer Gesetzestafel. Sie unterstreichen das Grundprinzip Rechtsstaatlichkeit.
I'll take you guys through some of the basic information here. I hope you guys are learning from this, and wow, the Agora. This content is purely informational, and I am very glad to have shared this with you. The long road to a great achievement. Austria is a democratic republic. Its laws emanates from the people. I think I read this already. Okay. Successful rule by the people. So what's new here is how has democracy developed in Austria since 1848. In just the first 100 years, the state existed in 6 different forms. At the outset, there was a revolution followed by its defeat. 70 years later, the first proper democracy came along, but it lasted just short of 15 years. What have we learned from this, and what challenges are we facing? Our democracy is a child of the 1848 revolution. It is a hard-fought struggle. At first, the insurgents meet with success. For the first time, an assembly is elected and constitution enacted, but a backlash soon follows and the parliament is disbanded. It takes until 1860 to extract democracy, concessions from the empire. 7 years later, the December Constitution finally grants fundamental rights and the separation of power. It also opens the way for the emergence of mass political parties. It is another 40 years before the first universal and the free elections for all male citizens are held, but parliament is suspended even before the First World War. At the end of the war, the multinational state of Austria-Hungary collapses. And these are the picture representation of that.
O tote Kaiser, ich bin nicht für die konstitutionelle Monarchie hinzugekommen. Man kann es mir nicht verwenden, dass ich nicht dafür sterben
In 1918, the war has been lost and the Habsburg monarchy is gone. The people are demanding democracy. The new republic introduces women's suffrage, pushes through social reforms and enacts constitution. Over the years, political disputes become fiercer and shift onto the streets. In March 1933, Federal Chancellor Engelbert suspends parliament and sets up an authoritarian regime. Around 1 year later, clashes break out to a civil war. The Nazi German government in March 1938 marks the end of the Australian sovereignty. Many thousands are victims of the Holocaust and the political disaster, are persecuted and murdered. Of those responsible for those crimes, many are Australian. These are the people who contributed to the success. I see Mohammed Ali here. I'm not sure how. Oh, Malcolm X as well. Interesting. Hello. These are a very interesting collection, and having gone through some of the it's very interesting. So inside the political mind, it's a group by group power, the human side of politics and how it shapes development, and there are certain irony in the political development of the Austria's government. Then here we have, interestingly, women, language and politics. This is a book that I think every woman should go through. I just read the summary of it, and we have Yes We Can, Barack Obama's proverbial rhetoric. Very interesting collections here in this bibliothèque, but also let the people really interesting. And so going back home, I think money, 5,000 years of debt and power, which I think is a book every African government should at least go through, because our governments are caught up in recurrent debts, inequality of wealth, crack up capitalism. Yeah, there's a recurrent tendency in our African governments to get debt from the Western world, and so I really question, should there be a tool for the government to really understand this? No, not for the Kenyan government, because what they would be focused on is their allowances for such tours, which would ideally come from the taxpayers' money. So I think an intentional tour should be made with a task of expectations to be achieved while they're in these tours. As long as the light still burns in the library, the world is not lost. Wow, yes, so this is how the parliament looks like.
Coś ciekawego dawaj. Nie historii, program. Participation. O Jezu. Jak bardzo
Yes, quite insightful and interesting information on the Austria's Parliament and government. Let me know what you guys have learned. Yeah, it took me quite a while to be inside there, and just also reading through the history and the struggle that all these countries went through. Yes, I was in different countries, and I think I shared my take and my understanding and the stereotypes that I had around these countries, and just realizing that the people we needed independence from also really struggled for freedom is quite an insightful thing that I think every African leader and every leader should learn about, because I think coming from Africa, we live in a country where we just believe that this Western government or the Western system can save our system, and so I think it's really demeaned the awareness and just the knowledge of how powerful our systems or the systems in the African countries can be. So then we still believe in colonialists, even though we say we got independence. And this is seen in so many ways on how our resources are extorted and how we depend on this Western countries for decisions on what we need done. And I think this has been politically, strategically politically articulated in a way that Africa does not see their potential. I feel like the Western world should really push Africa to have functionality in its systems rather than support it to continue borrowing debt and accruing generational debts from the Western world. Let me know what you guys think on the comment section. Yeah, it's been a learning experience. I'm very glad I left there, very rich in information that's really interesting. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. So people, I had, so to go to the main parliament, you have to book an appointment. And I got an appointment for today. I'm just rushing to get it at the parliament so I can give you guys this information and more content in regards to the Austrian Parliament. Yeah, so let's get it. I'm here already. It's 15 minutes to time. So we are in good time. I'm becoming more European the more I'm staying here. The appointment you have to get at 4 o'clock. This is what we are doing, 1995 today. Our democracy in Europe, their democracy in Europe. And so I got a tag already. We are waiting for the tour guide to come. I look forward to sharing with you guys. This is exciting. Look at this. Look at this. I'm really glad I brought you guys into the Parliament.
Very impressive if you're here for the first time, but there's only one silly thing about this huge room. The acoustics are exhausting. Yeah, this is a very old building, 140 years ago. It was erected during the late 19th century. And this is, if you saw it from the outside, you saw that this is huge. It's much too big for Republic of Austria, but of course it was not erected for a Republic of Austria, but for a completely different country. This was the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, and emperor at that time was Emperor Francis Joseph I. And Vienna, at the time of 1900, in the year of 1900, had already 2 million inhabitants. And in 1900, Vienna was the 5th biggest city in the world after Paris, London, New York and Boston. The city of Vienna was consisting of the first district only for centuries, and this first district was surrounded by very high walls, and this was a good idea because we had 2 times the Turks coming over in the 16th and the 17th century to look how the Viennese were. and on this occasion we were quite happy to have these high walls. But in the late 19th century, it was decided by Emperor Francis Joseph to tear down the walls and to erect a huge circular street instead, the so-called Ring Street, and it took at least 30 years from 1860 to 1890 until everything was ready, not only the street but also the extraordinary buildings alongside the street, the big museums, the university, the town hall and the House of Parliament. And this House of Parliament was erected in 1874 and 1883, not very long, only 9 years. The architect of the Parliament was a guy from Denmark. His name was Theophil Hansen. He was born in 1813 in Denmark, and he came to Vienna to become one of the most prominent architects in Vienna. He not only erected the House of Parliament, but a lot of private houses, Palais Epstein, Palais Froste, Palais Tedesco, and he erected the Army Museum, the Stock Exchange, the Academy of Fine Arts, and the so-called Musikverein. This is the huge building at Karl Square where the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra had their performances, and this was his main project, you can say, and he was quite proud of it. This big hall of columns is not only the central room of the Parliament, it's also the biggest one. We have almost 1,000 square meters in here. This would be the main entrance. From other parliaments, from high politicians or from kings or queens, we open this main gate and there will be a red carpet going through the vestibule up to this double door, and behind this double door we would find the room for the presentations, the room for the meetings, the reception room, because we have the reception in this room. I'll show this to you later. Single stones, so they are not compositions of lime, color or glue. Each column is not only very big but also very heavy. Each column has a weight of more than 16 tons. So there's a lot of weight on the other half we just did. Yeah. We're now coming to the next room. This parliament was erected, by the way, the name of the parliament was not parliament, it was called Reichsrat, which would translate as Imperial Council. As you can see, the country was huge, it was an empire, Austro-Hungarian monarchy, and Emperor Francis Joseph was the Emperor of Austria, this was the blue part, and the coronated King of Hungary, and this was the red part. And the Hungarians had built their own parliament in Budapest alongside the Danube River, and this parliament was the parliament for this blue part. So this was the parliament not only for Austrians but also for Czechs, for Poles, for Ukrainians, Romanians, Croatians, Slovenians and North and South Tyroleans. This was a multi-cultural parliament. We had 8 different nations in this parliament speaking 11 different languages. I will show you this parliamentary. Statues. We have 10 statues of ancient Greek gods. We almost have everybody from Mount Olympus in here. Over there in the center we have the boss of the bosses. This would be Zeus. But on his left side we also have his daughter, Pallas Athene, the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of strategy. And we even have her twice, not only in here, but also on top of this fountain outside the parliament in front of the main facade. And if you had a close look, you could see that she has another little goddess in her right hand, a winged goddess, and this is Nike, the goddess of victory. So Nike is not a shoe brand. If there's any Nikes around. So she's a Greek artist. And normally I'm on tour with a Greek temple. Everything is very Greek in here. Even the columns are all dating back to ancient times. And the reason is because when the Parliament was planned 140 years ago, we are living in 1880 in the time of in German we call this period Historismus. In English it would be historicism, or I think the better translation would be revival. So this was a style that did not develop own forms but reused ancient styles. For instance, the town hall, the Viennese town hall is neo-Gothic, or the opera house is neo-Renaissance, and this would be neo-Greek. Why? Because when people thought over the possibility of using a style, they remembered who had invented democracy, and this had been the people from Athens, 500 before Christ. The word demokratia is Greek. Coming from, and these are the two houses, this one and this one. This one that was the House of Lords, and this was the House of Deputies. And this House of Lords was also destroyed during the Second World War. A bomb came down directly into this house and destroyed it completely. It was not restorable, and it was decided in the 50s to build in a modern Austrian parliament. So two architects of the 50s, Fellerer and Wörle, created a modern room for the modern Austrian parliament. So we are so lucky to have a huge building with two parliaments. This is the historical parliament, and this is the modern Austrian parliament. You are going to see this at last stop of our tour. But first we are now here. Now we are going to this historical room.
Wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. This is crazy.
Oh.
Wow. This is the historical parliament. Look at this, guys. So this is the historical Austrian Parliament. Just look at how beautiful all is gold. So nice.
The house of the second Washington. Yeah.
How old is this again?
140 years old.
140 years old. It's old. 140 is old. Wow. And do they use it?
I will tell you in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Just wait until the photos are taken.
Okay.
These are the holes for the inkwells. So people were really writing with pen and ink in here. And if you have a look at the ceiling, just above our heads we have three characters. FG1, can you see this? Yeah. And these are, of course, the abbreviations for Emperor Francis Joseph I. And there was a very smart question by this gentleman. There was an emperor, but there was also a parliament. So who was in power who was in charge of the power, because there was who was saying what was going on. And this was the reason we have Emperor Francis Joseph a lot of times in here, not only at the ceiling but also sometimes over the doors and even at the walls. So we see him all the time, but Emperor Francis Joseph was not a close friend of the parliament. Au contraire, he knew he was not dumb, he was smart. He knew if there, in the moment there was a functioning parliament, this could cost him all his power, and he would end up like King Charles in Great Britain. When King Charles has, for instance, his throne speech, he has a throne speech every year. His throne speech is written by the British Parliament, he only reads it. There's not a single word by his hand, and Emperor Francis Joseph absolutely saw this perspective, and he was not delighted at all. So in fact, he hated the parliament. He only was in the parliament twice during his lifetime. The second time when the house was open, and then he refused to come here for another time. The big house, the big Hall of Columns, this always was designed by the architect Theophil Hansen as a place for the emperor to have his throne speeches here in the parliament, but he never used it once. If you wanted to have a throne speech, you had to see him in the Hofburg, in the Imperial Palace. There you got his throne speech, but not in his parliament. And this absolutely stunning box over the main entrance, should have been his box. This was the imperial box that was designed by the parliament as an invitation to the emperor to come here, but he didn't use this once. So he really tried to keep the parliament at a distance. Today we also have two houses. We have the National Chamber and the Federal Chamber. And when these two chambers get together, they come together in here and they form the National Assembly. And when the National Assembly, this National Assembly has more or less only one task. The only task is to swear in the federal president, and this happened last year in this room. Our federal president is Mr. Alexander van der Bellen, and he has now a second period. The Austrian president, the federal president, has the possibility of 2 periods of 6 years, and the president is elected by all the Austrians who are at least 16 years old, which is a little bit unusual. All the other EU countries voted at the age of 18 years. Only Malta and Austria voted at the age of 16 years. Allowed to touch anything? It's okay. It's okay. And we don't use this very often, only once or twice a year. And this also has to do with the furniture. The furniture is a pleasure to look at, but it's absolutely uncomfortable. So if you have long legs and you have to sit here more than 20 minutes, this is absolutely a treat. But we are happy to have this room and to show it to our guests. And please have a look at the ceiling. Our highlight, this is the last glass roof in original version we have in the House of Parliament. All the other glass roofs have been destroyed during the Second World War. And this is the so-called Bohemian glass fan. Bohemia was one of the kingdoms of the monarchy. Today it's Czechia. Bohemia is the old word for Czechia, and they were famous for glass making. This is one of the sunken treasures of the monarchy. The Bohemians was one of the centers of glass making in the south. This was Venice. They still produce tons of glass, and in the north it was Bohemia. And the Bohemians produced glass not only for the monarchy but for the world export. There were hundreds of glass producers in Bohemia, and 2 of them are still existing. One is in Tyrolia, this is Riedel, they're still producing wine glasses, and the second one is Swarovski, they're still producing glass stones, and both of them were found 140 years in Bohemia, and they are the last survivors of this huge glass industry that also produce this absolutely stunning glass fan. Presidents of the House, we see guests from other parliaments, politicians or kings and queens. They're coming through the main gate. I showed you the main door in the vestibule, and they're coming through this hall. And this will be the table with the snacks, the drinks, so the speeches will be held there, and the glasses will be sit. So this is the official room for our reception. Yeah, and here we have another example of modern art. It's the four huge paintings you're seeing here, and these paintings were all done by a very well-known Austrian painter by Hermann Zobernick. And Mr. Zobernick did something extraordinary. He did not use ordinary paint, he used transparency paint or interference paint, and this can be something very special. This paint can change the colors, like the colors of the media. If we stand in front of this painting, for instance, we see that this painting is bright blue, whereas the painting on the right side looks grey. But if we change our point of view and go over and stand in front of the grey painting, we see that this painting in fact is bright green, and if you look back at the blue one looks violet from there.
So this was initially, this is dark blue, and that one looks blackish. I don't know, maybe I'm close. And as we go, it's turning into green. Look. So this is green. Look. This is insane. And then that's turned into purple. This is not magic, this is art, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa. Purple. Green. So what's the material used again to make it change color?
They're very, very tiny transparent patterns, and it depends on the angle of the light, of what kind of impression, what kind of color impression you have. So this is the reason why the color changes permanently.
No magic, it's art, eh?
No magic.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. So look, we are back to dark blue, and on the other end we are back to blackish. Wow. So this is the reception area. Wow. 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 Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. So we're in the chamber, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the chamber, we are outside.
The second chamber of the Austrian Parliament. Before we have two chambers, the National Chamber, and this here, this is the Federal Chamber, so this would be the chamber of the provinces. Austria has 9 provinces, and you can see the coat of arms of the provinces in the back of the room. These are the coat of arms, and in the center we have the coat of arms of Upper Austria, because Upper Austria chairs this chamber at the moment. Every province chairs this chamber for 6 months in alphabetical order, and at the moment this is the case with Upper Austria. So the provinces are sending their deputies from their provincial diets to Vienna to sit in this room and to also be part of the architect, because Hansen did something quite extraordinary. He not only created the architecture of the House of Parliament, he created the complete interior. So everything was by his hand, not only the architecture, but all the furniture, the desks, the stools, the lamps, the lights, even the door handles. These stunning door handles over there in the size of snakes were also created by Theophil Hansen. Hansen was somebody the late 19th century didn't have a word for, but today we would call him a designer. And the way he treated the parliament reminds us of another German, very German expression. There's a very special word for it. It's called Gesamtkunstwerk. That means in English, total work of art. This is an expression that was first used for the operas by Richard Wagner, because Richard Wagner not only wrote the music but also the lyrics and created the stage decoration. And Theophil Hansen did quite the same for the House of Parliament, so he really did everything. And
Ja, das ist eine Zeitreise, wo Typen Sitzgabe zum Beispiel, wo was ist denn
we're now in the modern Austrian Parliament. As I mentioned before, we have 183 members. We have 5 parties in here. There, on the left side, it should be the Social Democrats. If we talk about politics, we talk about this comes from the sitting order here in the Parliament. Social Democrats, then next to the Social Democrats we have the Greens.